Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Fireside chat. We are going to be chatting all about the future of data science. So it is wonderful to welcome up my two guests today. Thank you for joining me. Krish, obviously it's wonderful to see you again so soon, joining us earlier in the festival in the New York studio. Lovely to have you virtual. And Snehit, wonderful to have you joining us today as well. Let's do a quick introduction. Snehit, if you wouldn't mind going first.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
I can.
So I'm Snehit Prabhu. I currently serve as the chief data scientist for cancer cell therapy here at Stanford. We are a center that largely develops, researches, manufactures, and delivers these extremely complex biologic therapies called it's in the class of immunotherapies to cancer patients. And the organization spans the university through a bunch of research labs, and then two flagship hospitals, the adult hospital and the pediatric hospital. And I have the unique privilege of overseeing all the data functions, everything from data engineering to governance to clinical decision support, and many of the analyses pipelines, which in our world, Krishna's and my world, includes bioinformatics and biostatistics. And in a previous life, I've been a computer scientist by training, so I spent some time at big tech players like Microsoft and IBM, and then had a couple of stints in venture-backed biotech startups as well. So that's a little bit about me. I hope that suffices.
It suffices completely, and a nice diverse set of experience there that we'll be tapping into across the discussion tonight. Krishna, great to see you. If you wouldn't mind giving us an intro.
You certainly. It is great to see you again, Catherine. Though is not in person, but it's wonderful to see you again. And thank you for inviting me into for this wonderful session. For the audience, I am Krishna Karuturi, the Senior Director of Computational Sciences at the Jackson Laboratory. And the Jackson Laboratory a not for profit organization for biomedical research, as well as a leading supplier of research mice in the across the globe.
Amazing.
My role at the JAX is about building and managing a high performance central data science department that work very closely with the principal investigators as well as the many support departments across the lab. And what I will bring to this discussion is about based on my multiple roles I played in my 2 decades of career, including principally investigator, computer scientist, as well as the data science executive.
Fantastic. Well, there we go to the audience. We are well and truly in for a treat here for this discussion for certain. So obviously we're recording, if you're watching on demand, just to give you a bit of context, we're recording in July of 2022. So we're just tipping halfway now. And I'm going to be really keen to hear from you both what your top 3 trends, maybe interests are for this year in data science. What are the 3 big things that you're looking towards when it comes to DS? Snehit, I'll come to you first for that.
That's an interesting one. I wouldn't want to put a timeline on it, famous last words and all, but trends that I see emerging, um, auto ML and sort of low code, no code data science for citizen scientists. That's a big one for just data storytelling. The second one I would say would be privacy enabled computation. This is something that's been on the fringes for a while, but I'm waiting to see a Databricks like player emerge that really takes the platform and tooling to a next level that allows us to kind of analyze data in a privacy sort of enabled slash respectful manner. And then the third one, that's an interesting one. Wow. Um, Fairness in AI, I would say, ethical AI. I think that is going to remain front and center. But in a way, the majority of the public, mind space has been occupied with image recognition being misled by non-white faces or training these answer bots on the internet corpus or a large corpus of literature and then having it answer back uncomfortably. I think there is a much larger looming problem, but yet underappreciated problem around healthcare and life sciences, where we do see differences in outcomes between races and ancestries, and different populations experience different levels of health, so to speak. And this is getting exacerbated as we have next generation medicines and technologies come to bear. And I think what we don't want to end up with is this two-tiered healthcare system where certain populations are served better than the others. And so we're going to have a national effort and conversation around precision medicine and how to ameliorate these. So I think those three are front and center for me, but that's just my sort of view into the world through through where I sit in. So I'd love to hear what.
Yeah, I just want to pull on that thread a little bit, because the first one I understand is, the third one definitely I understand is one of my passion areas, absolutely, an advocate for responsible AI. That second one, though, I want to pull that thread a little bit more. I wonder if you can go a little bit deeper for me in terms of that privacy capability, because it's something that we've been discussing slightly in a different context throughout the festival, but it's not something I maybe have heard much about.
Sure. So the way that I see the world evolving is we largely have these data capture technologies that are largely getting democratized, right? So you have these sensors that exist on the edge, and everyone's wearing a smartwatch and has a phone, and they can kind of collect reams of really well-structured data for themselves at scale. So we have democratized data capture, but then with analysis, what we do is we stream it all into like one giant lake, and then we have this clergy, so to speak, of highly decorated and trained scientists doing analysis. And increasingly with, if we want to take this and democratize it to the point where we have citizen scientists and we have, patients advocating for themselves, tracking and analyzing and running, health stories for themselves, then we need a concerted effort also to marry that with just the way the regulation is going with GDPR and the American equivalents. We do not yet have a space where this can be done in a way by many people without resulting in taking on a huge privacy risk, so to speak. And so there's been a whole slew of technologies around differential privacy, homomorphic encryption. These are all esoteric sort of technologies and computational sort of methods that are largely spoken about by cryptographers and computer scientists on Reddit and forums like that. But it's mostly like cryptocurrencies were in, or blockchain technology was in the early 2000s. I think it's coming to fruition now, where we have relatively mature libraries and ecosystems to kind of wrangle this. It's not yet gotten to the point. It's still very much the sort of it's done at the Microsofts and the Facebooks, mostly in research settings, but we're still to see major players like, like we have with big data. We have this huge data maturity arc, and you had Databricks like companies come out and productionize Spark. We had Ethereum come out and productionize the blockchain. So we need to. I'm waiting to see a player like that emerge that really makes it easy and convenient, and has the right set of tooling and the right set of libraries and the right set of delivery mechanisms and service models to kind of operate with data in a privacy preserving manner at scale. I think it's a big it's probably it's a decacorn at least, whoever kind of runs with that ball.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why I wanted to pull that thread. And if you both listen very, very carefully, I'm sure you can hear the thundering of notes being taken on all manner of devices through that as well. Snehit, thank you so much. Krishna, how about yourself? What are your top 3 trends and interests for 2022?
Catherine, because you asked for 3, I will pick up certainly 3, and I agree with everything what Snehit said, and I would add that automation will continue to be a major emphasis across the field, and especially to speed up the discoveries in the process in a cost-effective manner, and especially in this environment for high turnover in this area. And the second one, I echo with Snehit is about how to lower barriers for data science. That means citizens and the data scientists. And in fact, it really means that people who do the business in a day-to-day manner, how we can enable them to do the data science so that it, it will be done faster and effectively and on time. And the third trend and most important trend that has been around for a long time is the data integration and platforms. And how the data integration to be done, I think it's still different groups are trying different methods. Some try to build a one monolithic systems like data lakes. Some may be trying the data mesh, and we are at the Jackson Lab working on this API mesh. Therefore, there are different trend approaches being done, but it is inevitable to bring the data together, if not today, tomorrow. And on these three trends together, they actually work hand in hand rather than in isolation. You cannot accomplish one without the other, especially lowering barriers for the mm, to access data science across the board.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually that you do mention that they work together in collaboration for sure. But there's set the scene now. As a content producer, I love a buzzword. Guilty of it completely. Are there any particular buzzwords you think that we're going to be hearing about very soon? And do you think they're worth the value that a buzzword deserves? Krish, I'll come to you for that one.
Yeah, this is a hard problem. I'm not very good at finding the buzzwords, but the I would say data exchange could be a potential buzzword. I think about it. If not this year, it'll happen. Yeah, the reason I want to say is that just imagine the automobile industry, how number of elements of the automobile manufacturing have been standardized, and the standards are exchanged between the different automobile manufacturers. Similarly, for TV or many other manufacturers. Whereas in the data science arena, there are many similar industries. I'm not aware of these whether these industries are exchanging some standards and the information and models that benefits them all. Therefore, they can accomplish their goal more efficiently and more cost effectively. From that perspective, I would say the data and model exchange can happen at some point in future for the data science in industry to speed up their to expand or speed up their discovery specific to the business.
Really very interesting. Snit, how about yourself? What's the buzzword on the horizon for you?
Well, mine is actually far more pedestrian. I um, was expect again, I never like putting a timeline on how things will unfold, but I was expecting this to take off a couple of years ago, and it didn't quite take has as much sort of adoption as I thought. So, business process as a service, BPAAS. I think that is kind of going to be huge, whether people label it as such or not. Um, and there's a strong reason, I think, uh, one way or another, whether labeled as BPAAS or not, that sort of slew of thinking about the way the world unfurls is going to take off. So one of the things is many sectors like life sciences and healthcare, major parts of the GDP of our country and yours and several others, um, these have been laggards as far as digital adoption have been concerned compared to e-commerce and others. And so we have most of the business processes associated with marketing functions or sales functions or e-commerce functions have been process mapped out, and they have digital twin equivalents on clouds. But in huge sectors like defense and life sciences and healthcare, this remains largely under addressed. And if you think about where the big cloud providers are, all the major tech players, what they are trying to do effectively is, capture a lot of value on their ecosystems. And one of the best ways to do this, one of the most effective ways to do this, is take a high value business process and create a digital equivalent on the cloud. And if you execute it to perfection, then you just have massive adoption. So this is largely greenfield. I'm still expecting to see how the Googles and the Microsofts and the Amazons, take on healthcare, not just by, you can think the way that I like to think about it, at least, is you have these broadcast networks like AT&T, and and then you have these content studios like HBO and Disney. And so the way that I see the analogy working out is you have the infrastructure players who have the Microsofts, the Googles, the AWSs, and then you have content players like academic medical centers or healthcare institutions. And there's a good partnership here that needs to happen, which is we have very valuable business processes, extremely important business processes, and we don't really have the capabilities or the kind of uh, uh, capital generate, and we're not organizationally structured to kind of create these business processes. And despite their best attempts, as you might have heard of the Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan sort of healthcare initiative, which didn't really take off. So they've tried their hand at healthcare and hasn't really worked. So I think there's a partnership waiting to happen here where we teach them how healthcare works on the inside, and they kind of lend us their expertise around cloud infrastructure and digital sort of pathways. And I think that is going to open up a whole slew of possibilities. So BPAAS, as weird as it doesn't really roll off the tongue, but I think that is my buzzword that I'm waiting to see take off. It's my favorite pet buzzword.
No, I love that. I love that. Fantastic. Now, you both come from industries and organizations where data is assumed. I think, you have to be data driven. It's kind of a non-negotiable for you. When we look at outside of your industries at the market as a whole, do you think that many organizations are still yet to really capitalize on their data science capabilities in a sense of what they can really achieve? As an observation, I wonder what you both think of that. Snehit, I'll come to you first.
Well, I would actually like to push back. I think our sector has been perhaps the least in terms of like its digital, our digital transformation journey hasn't been. I mean, it's for a variety of reasons, but also the way that I think about it is not just in pockets, but from a holistic sense. Many sectors are far ahead of us. So we certainly have like the latest, greatest stuff happening with precision medicine, digital medicine, and the like. But in order to take that all the way to the clinic and create value for the healthcare consumer, which is the patient, there's like a whole set of steps. There's regulatory bottlenecks. There's like all these other sort of steps we need to go through. And, some of it has, to the credit of the regulators, some of it by design, they've kind of opened up these new pathways like software as a medical device or digital medicine. And some of it by necessity, because of COVID, we had to figure out how to approve vaccines and develop them within like the course of months, as opposed to decades. And so these innovations are coming about slowly, but I would certainly say that our sectors have been behind in terms of how quickly we can digitize and really leverage our data science assets and capabilities. I mean, there's a lot of data there, but we haven't really like taken it all the way. I would say that there are, again, like I said earlier, there's many sectors that are outside of the internet first. So many, the sectors that were invented post-internet era have all obviously been sort of very good at what they do. I would say, for example, the Googles and the Facebooks they're way up there in terms of how quickly they're leveraging their data assets. So they typically lead the way because of just how large they are. They build a lot of tooling capabilities, and then it trickles down and everyone kind of adopts those patterns. But for the most part, outside of internet first companies, there's a lot of work to be done, including in my space of healthcare and life sciences. I don't know if Krishna agrees or.
Yeah, great.
Listen, Snehit, I agree with you, and I would add more like orthogonal perspective to what you shared. Because Catherine specifically used two key keywords in her question: is many organizations and the data science capabilities. Therefore, I assume I would not base my comment on two or three big companies, but rather the larger set of companies in the space, including the biomedical. I strongly believe The data science capabilities are not yet fully exploited for the reason. If you look at the for the reason that data science is not just about data, right? It is the data, it's the tools, and it's people. And making best of all the three components is only can get you to the best of the data science capabilities. What I mean here is this: when we say people, is not just about the staff. We have data engineers, data scientists, and machine learning engineers, and so on. It's also about how much we're engaging the academic partners in the data science arena. And the academic partners can show us a value which otherwise wouldn't be easily possible by the fully engaged and busy data scientists in the organization. Similarly, the one we're talking about, the data integration, I think many companies are still working on it. It's not there yet. Therefore, it's similar to biomedical, we have a different challenge here. And similar to biomedical, we are still haven't made even half use of the data we are accumulating. And on the tooling, again, we need a lot of tooling yet to be done because of the vast number of tools coming up, and the models are rebuilt again. The reusability is not in place yet, and therefore, given all these important aspects of it, I think we are still have a lot of potential to exploit the data and data science in future. And I strongly believe we have a longer business ahead.
Oh, a very exciting future as well. Now, obviously, the main aim of this conversation today was looking towards the future. But whilst we wrap up here today, I would love to share a bit of passion here. I wonder if you can tell me what the most exciting thing about data science is. If you had to pitch it to our audience and you want to bring some people over to the data science teams, what's the most exciting thing about data science for you at the moment? Krish, I'll go to you first.
At this moment, certainly it is a data integration is the most exciting part for me. It is an important, very important aspect of our whole data science and enterprise, and is the most challenging component.
Hmm.
Amazing. And then Snehit, what about you? What's the most exciting element?
Well, I think democratization really. This I when you just think about, YouTube content creators, when you talk to the younger generation, all they want to do is be like YouTube celebrities, right? And I think if there's space now that is emerging, just given the maturity of the tooling ecosystem and how easy it is to really get your hands dirty and create gorgeous insights, there is space to almost become a data science influencer, like not unlike a YouTube influencer. So if you want to kind of have a meaningful impact on the way people interpret, noise as opposed to real story. If you want to kind of tell stories using data as opposed to just rhetoric, and you want to there's space here to be like a Nate Silver. There's space to be a real sort of key opinion leader in the space and build a following around yourself, and in a way that was not quite possible in the past because you needed PhDs and spend 30 years, doing math and and the like. And that no longer is the case. Both the data is easily available, the tools that are necessary to make gorgeous and compelling stories are easily available. So I think it's a great time to be thinking about data science as a young person, or
Yeah,
or not. But it's a great time to be thinking about data science as a person of any age.
No, absolutely. Well, yeah, I love the inclusion of that. It's never too late to get into data science. Well, thank you both so much for such a great conversation. Always great to catch up with you both, and yeah, a really interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you,
Catherine.
Krishna.
Now, I think possibly Snehit may have been looking at the agenda there, because the next session that we will be watching is a rewind session from a previous festival, all about creating a data science mindset with effective storytelling. So a bit more on that now. We'll see you over there.